Greg Jackson's status among mixed martial arts fans and fighters is near legendary. He's one of the most successful coaches in the sport's history. He's also a native Burqueño. Correspondent Russ Contreras went one-on-one with Jackson in our studio this week about the rise of MMA, what's it like to coach athletes in and out of the octagon, and running for office.
Well, thank you, Greg, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, boss. I appreciate it.
So the sport of MMA, mixed martial arts, as we know it in the UFC and Bellator, is relatively new, but it's caught on. What is it about MMA that's driving its popularity right now?
Well, I think it's a very real and honest sport. I think that when you watch it, you know it's not going to be like professional wrestling. The two competitors are getting in there and they're really going to fight. They're really going to do their art. And one person is going to win. And the drama of that, I think, draws people. The honesty of it, the reality of it. Like, this is an actual real sport. It's a real fight. And so people get pulled into that. Somebody once said that if a fight breaks out in a soccer field, everybody will stop playing soccer and the crowd will just watch the fight, right? Because that's where the real drama is. So I think that the honesty of what we do pulls people in. They really want to watch it.
And what got you into MMA? It's taken off here in New Mexico. Boxing has had that status not too long ago. But what is it about combat sports that resonates with New Mexicans?
Well, I think New Mexico, here we have a very machismo culture, you know what I mean? Like, it's a very Hispanic community, and it's also kind of a very pull yourself up by your bootstraps community, you know what I mean? Like, you feel like as a New Mexican, you want to earn what you get, and I think that the combat sports speak to that kind of a person, the machismo culture. And then we're pretty good at it here in New Mexico. So I think that also has had a big kind of influence on it, right? Because if you are the best in the world at something and you're from New Mexico, well, and you're a New Mexican, you might want to watch it. So I think that the combat sports, I think, speak to us culturally a little bit, but I think what really has driven it is our success in the combat sport itself.
And what got you into MMA and coaching MMA?
Well, I got talked into the whole thing. I actually never wanted to be a coach or anything. I was raised in the South Valley of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I wanted to learn how to defend myself. So that's where the whole impetus started. Like, I wanted to be as effective as possible at defending myself that I could. And then my students came to me and said, "Hey, can we do these competitions?" At the time, it was very iffy's the word, right? It was bare knuckles. The rules were different everywhere. This was before we got regulated. And so they just talked me into it. We started doing that. We started traveling all over the country and the world. I thought maybe, it might work out, maybe not. We'll go back to what I really care about, which is the martial arts. But no, we started winning everything, and here I am 27 years later.
So nearly 3 decades.
It's almost been 30 years I've been training fighters, yeah.
Over the years, you and Mike Winkeljohn have created a world-class gym in Albuquerque that has trained the likes of Bones Jones, Holly Holm, and Rashid Evans. What is it about the gym that makes it so successful and different?
That's a very complicated question. I think that at its heart, what is a martial arts instructor? Or a coach like me. It's a problem solver. So I think that we're very effective at solving problems. So the problem can be, how do you beat this opponent? The problem can be, how do I set up a structure wherein we can ensure success of our fighters? So you have to have a structural kind of base that allows you to solve the problems of combat sports. So that's the big one. And part of that is setting a good culture. Part of that is always innovating, always looking to how to do things better. And part of it is the personalities of the coaches and fighters around to kind of drive that model. So I think that it's the success isn't just one thing, right? It's this kind of base that we've set with this culture that we've made, and then all of the good things that come from that just keep feeding into our success.
And of course, you train fighters, and some of these fighters admittedly will say openly they're fighting demons, their own. They have a lot of things. How do you as a coach try to refocus some of these fighters and think about their long-term goals and handle these demons?
Well, one of the biggest challenges I have as a coach is guiding these people onto the path that's going to be a positive path. And then, some of them will get pulled off of that path. Sometimes they're too young for success, and all of this comes at them and they make terrible decisions, and you kind of have to try to build them back up and say, listen, when you're young, you can do some crazy stuff, but you've got to come back to this positive path. So a good portion of my career is trying to get people to stay out of trouble and stay kind of on this positive moving forward path, so that not only their life is positive, but the gym life is positive as well, right? Because you don't want to be the jerk in the gym that nobody wants to train with, nobody wants to hang around with, and getting onto that negative kind of train, that negative pathway can do that to you. So yeah, a good portion is these guys and these gals have a lot of issues sometimes. They work really hard to stay on the straight and narrow, but it's not easy for them. And so to help them stay on that path is one of the things that I enjoy the most.
And I think of Bones Jones, of course. You look at him, and he's one of the pound for pound, one of the best ever. How can you grab his personality and say, look, you can do even more, and you've got young kids looking at you?
Right, exactly. With John, just keeping in mind that, he had a lot of success really young, and he didn't make the best decisions at that time. But seeing how he's developing now, how he's really trying to stay on the straight and narrow, and how he's trying to push his career into that next level as well, I'm very proud of that. I wish that he would have made different decisions earlier on, but I'm proud to see him come out of that. And I think I think it's easy to judge for a lot of people, but those of us that have, the demons or the problems, and you make it out of that and you turn that negative around and make it a positive, I think that's super important. So to watch him do that, I'm very proud of it.
Now, in recent months, you've shown some interest outside of MMA in promoting New Mexico, especially when you go abroad. What is it about this initiative that has hit your core?
Well, the New Mexico experience is something that I started, and what it is basically it's a methodology to promote local businesses. And local, I mean all throughout the state of New Mexico. So because I have access to all of this international media, I hang out with celebrities sometimes. I don't know why they want to hang out with me, but they do sometimes, and I have access to all these resources kind of around the world. I wanted to do something positive for our state. I feel like our economy is not where it should be, and I wanted to start doing my part to push it to a better place. I don't know why Arizona, Colorado, and Texas have these great economies and we're not in that mix, right? Like New Mexico is way better than all those places. So just seeing those problems and saying, well, listen, how can I help out? How can I do something to maybe help guide our economy that way? So I take local businesses, and then I just promote them wherever I am. I'll talk to the international media. I'll talk to anybody that I can on a kind of a grand scale and try to get, just show people New Mexico's great. Tell people, hey, take your vacations here. Come spend your money. Come check it out because you'll get hooked. And then hopefully we get a lot of, great educated professional people. They want to move here because New Mexico gets in your blood. The sky's the limit. So I'm really an optimist with it, and I really want to help my state. This is my home, this is where I live, and I want to help it out. And so I think this is one methodology that I can do to do that.
And why did you stay in New Mexico?
I love it here. When Albuquerque and when New Mexico gets in your blood, it never leaves. And I love it here. It's my home. It's the most beautiful place we have better sunsets. The people are so interesting. We have the culture here and all the different, we have Native American, we have Anglo, we have Hispanic. We have so many different cultures all really melting together. You know what I mean? We're not segregated, we're all in it together. You have so many traditions from so many parts of the world here. It's a fascinating place to be, and it's so interesting and so exciting all the time. That you love it. And man, I've got mountains right here. I can go into a river if I want. I can go swimming. This state has it all, from the beautiful, beautiful forests all the way down south to these barren deserts that are gorgeous. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Now, after some of the events that you've held overseas, I've seen on social media there's some buzz around you saying that possibly Greg could do something else besides MMA. Do you have any interest in a public service or political office?
I do. Right now I'm trying to assess, I'm looking at what political office I would like to go for. I'm trying to assess where would my skill set make the most sense, right? So what I do is I kind of come with a set of skills. On the education side, I'm an educator, right? I'm a coach. I teach people. Not only do I teach martial artists, but I also teach law enforcement, federal law enforcement, state law enforcement, local law enforcement, and not just in New Mexico, but primarily in New Mexico. So I teach constantly. I teach mindfulness classes, I teach martial arts classes, defensive tactics, how to kind of bring the violence out of defensive tactics. So you're teaching police officers to control people more instead of striking them and hitting them. On our use of force kind of force array, where Of course, we're talking to people first, but if you have to go hands-on, you want to minimize the trauma. So how do you take the violence out of defensive tactics? That kind of stuff, that's part of my expertise, right? I really work with public safety. I'm a business owner. I have a business in downtown Albuquerque. I have a business in the International District, in places that other people might think, well, that's a little too challenging. So I have businesses there. So I'm a businessman too. So I can kind of use that knowledge with the education, with the public safety, with the business stuff. I'd like to see where I can take those problem-solving abilities and plug them into to help the city of Albuquerque, the state of New Mexico. Where is it going to be relevant? Where can I give back? I was raised by Quakers, of all things, if you can believe that. And my parents were both into public service. My dad ran Disability Rights New Mexico forever. So they really instilled into me this idea that happiness comes from helping people. Like, that's how you make yourself happy. It was a very kind of a Quaker philosophy, and it rubbed off on me a lot. And so I think that I'm just kind of coming full circle now, trying to give back to the community.
When you look at the events around our country and the status of the state, what bothers you? What really keeps you up at night?
Well, I think there's a lot that bothers me. I'm really concerned about our crime rate. I'm concerned that you can't have a good economy if people don't feel safe here. So I would like us all to make more money. I would like to have people move to New Mexico. I would like to not be considered the donut hole, right, of Texas, Colorado, and Arizona. I would like us to be someplace that people want to come and move to. So the crime rate, the education, I value education so much. Not only was I raised in the South Valley, so I really saw education's the ticket out of here, right? Like, that really is. It's a ticket to make the South Valley better. So it really gives you all of these amazing opportunities. But also, if you're a police officer and you don't have the right education, you can't make the right decisions. And that's how life is too. So education's huge to me. Like, I really want to push that. And so if you have good education and you have public, it's a safe place to be, your economy is going to grow. Obviously, you have to have good initiatives and stuff that we do on the business side as well. But having those 3 points, I think, really I see that's where we're lacking. You know what I mean? Like, so those are the 3 real things that I'm like, man, I'd like to. The governor's education initiative, I think that's amazing. Isn't that cool? Everybody gets to go to college for free. Like, the stuff that she's doing, I'm a huge fan of. I endorsed her for her candidacy, and now she's knocking it out of the park. I really like that a lot. Those kind of things are the things that keep me up at night, that make me say, I just wish it was safer here. I wish I didn't have to worry about locking my car all the time. You know what I mean? Like that. And obviously you still have to, but that kind of thinking where, I would like it to be safer. I would like our education to be a little bit better. And I'd like our economy to just boom. I'd love to have more money than we know what to do with.
What about poverty? Many of your fighters have been very upfront about them coming from poor backgrounds. This state is one of the poorest. How about poverty? How would you address that?
Well, I think poverty is what we're talking about, right? Because all of these causes or all of these things contribute to poverty. So I certainly grew up in the South Valley of Albuquerque, which again is one of the poorest places in the poorest cities. In the poorest states. So I grew up surrounded by poverty. Most of my fighters come from, not just in Albuquerque, but from around the world, poverty. And I think that is the big obstacle that a lot of us have. We don't have access to resources. We don't have a lot of opportunities because poverty is a weird thing. It takes away so much from you. It takes away hope from you. It takes away so many things. So working to get ourselves out of poverty, using those things, right? Making it a little safer so our economy, everybody can win, everybody can rise together. Making sure that we really put education in there. I think those are the tools that we're going to need to fight out of it. But let's make no mistake. I mean, we are at the bottom of a lot of very bad lists in New Mexico. It's my home. I love it. And only I can say those things, right? If somebody else said them, I'd be like, hey, hold on. New Mexico is the greatest place in the world. And I believe it is. But to fight out of that poverty, I really feel like we need some actual tools with an actual plan, not just, well, let's throw this at it and see if it works. So we need a step-by-step. You should be able to articulate why you're doing each step of your plan from 0 all the way to 100 to get us out of there.
And of course, you work on timelines and schedules with your fights.
All the time.
Do you have a timeline when you may decide what office to run for?
I don't at the moment because, again, I'm still in my gathering. I don't want to rush things. I want to do things correctly and smart and with purpose. I don't want to just jump in and go, I'm going to go do this, you know what I mean? I want to make sure I take my time, and I bring something to offer the position. So whatever position I decide to go for, I want to make sure that I bring value. I don't want to do it as a vanity project. I don't need a vanity project. I'm already well known in a small circle, so I don't need money and I don't really need fame. What I do need is to bring value back to the community. I need to do something to actually contribute. So my real goal is that, to try to contribute something back to the state that I love so much.
Well, Greg, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Russ.
Appreciate it.